Hello, I decided to look into something about corn. This video is going to be about why we can't digest corn, how corn syrup is made, do diet pops, do you lose weight drinking diet pop, and what makes us addicted to why did people become addicted to caffeine? So we're going to start with this. What causes undigested food in stool? And here are the foods that they say that we can't digest. The most common cause of undigested food in stool is fibrous food. While the body can break down most foods, fiber remains largely undigested. However, eating fiber can be beneficial because it adds bulk to the stool. Stool that's bulkier stimulates the walls of the intestine to move. This helps propel food material for digestion. Example of high fiber food particles that often remain largely undigested include beans, corn, grains such as I'm not going to pronounce it. Peas, seeds like sunflower seeds, flax seeds, or sesame seeds. Skins of vegetables such as bell peppers or tomatoes. Corn is an exceptionally common culprit for undigested food in stool. This is because corn has an outer shell of a compound called cellulose. Your body does not contain enzymes that specifically break down cellulose. However, your body can break down the food components that are inside corn. If you see what appears to be whole corn kernels in your stool, chances are you're only seeing the outer shell of the corn. Should I be concerned? Seeing these particles in your stool isn't usually a cause for concern. Some people may be worried they aren't getting enough nutrients in the diet. However, the body is not meant to break down all fiber forms. Eating slower and chewing food more carefully can make less food particles appear in your stool. Food that's chewed more thoroughly and in smaller pieces makes it easier for your digestive enzymes to break down the food. Another option is to steam food, especially vegetables. By making the food softer, they're easier for the body to break down and maximize nutrient absorption. Typically, it takes about 1 to 3 days for food material to pass through your digestive tract and exit via your stool. If you notice the food particles in your stool much sooner, this could indicate that the stool is passing more quickly than usual. Stool should be easy to pass. It shouldn't feel hard or dry. While the appearance of stool can vary from person to person, the general appearance of stool should be soft and brown in color. When to see a doctor? While undigested food in stool isn't something to worry about, for the most part, there are some exceptions. The presence of undigested food could indicate food is passing too quickly through the digestive tract and not being properly digested. See your doctor if you experience any of these symptoms. Changes in your bowel habits, such as loss of bowel control, persistent diarrhea, unexplained weight loss, blood in the stool. Well, these symptoms could indicate an underlying condition. Some conditions include Celiac disease. The body cannot properly break down gluten, a protein found in many foods, especially bread products. Crohn's disease. This is a form of inflammatory bowel disease where a person experiences significant inflammation in their digestive tract. Pancreatic insufficiency. The pancreas may not be making enough enzymes to properly break down food particles. Irritable bowel syndrome, IBS. This condition may be caused by an overly sensitive colon. Lactose intolerance. In this condition, your body does not have enough of the lactose enzyme to digest lactose. To digest lactose, a carbohydrate. Lactose. These are just a few examples of conditions associated with presence of undigested food. Next step, if a doctor is concerned about the presence of undigested food in the stool as well as other symptoms, they may order a stool test. This test involves collecting a sample of stool and sending it to a laboratory for evaluation. The test may look for the presence of blood, fat, or undigested food materials. Sometimes a doctor may order blood testing to test how low blood count due to gastronitis, bleeding, I think that's how you pronounce that word, or the presence of nutritional deficiencies. If a person is especially nutritionally deficient, this could indicate the presence of a food allergy or intolerance. Take a back control of your gut health. Okay. So yeah, that's that. So now we understand why certain food cannot be digested. Now we're going to get to this. This I've read and it's gross. It'll make you never want to drink corn syrup ever again. You'll never eat corn syrup again after knowing how it's made. Yeah. Oh, I'm glad I'm not drinking that shit anymore. Because that's in your sodas. Corn syrup is one of those ingredients we are told not to eat because it's unhealthy. But do we still eat it? Do we still eat food with it? Probably every single time. Not me anymore. Corn syrup is a product from cornstarch and is the base for high fructose corn syrup, which is thought to cause obesity and other major health problems. Although corn syrup is widely recognized as being unhealthy for you, many people do not know how the controversial sweetener is made. I did some research on how corn syrup is made so we can put these questions to rest and know if it's actually as harmful as it's thought to be. Oh, yes, it is. To make corn syrup, there are two main steps: separating cornstarch from corn and converting cornstarch into corn syrup. Like this. This is actually how you can separating cornstarch from corn. Separating cornstarch from corn isn't as easy as you would think. First, corn kernels will pass inspection. That pass inspection are softened by putting a mix of water and sulfur dioxide. Oh yay! Once the kernels are softened, the inner portion of the kernel, known as the germ, is removed. The germ is then heated and pressed so the corn oil in it is released. Ooh. Any remaining material from this process then has its starch removed from its fiber. Once separated, the starch is mixed with a protein mixture called meal starch. Oh, starch on top of starch. Ugh. The starch and the mill starch are mixed together at high speeds, creating a heavy starch and a light protein. After having any leftover proteins removed, the starch is fully removed from the corn and is ready to be converted into cornstarch. Converting cornstarch into corn syrup. The process of creating corn syrup is called acid hydrolysis. Wet starch is mixed with weak solution of hydrochloride, hydrochloric acid, and then heated under pressure. Sugar is created by the heat of the hydrochloric acid breaking down the starch molecules. Stopping this process at different points creates various levels of sweetness. The longer you allow the hydrolysis process, the sweeter the corn syrup will be. That's why you become addicted to it. The syrup then goes under a final process by removing any undesirable flavors and colors before being evaporated to reduce the amount of water. Yep. And that, my friends, is how you make corn syrup. I don't know about you, but the thought of eating something that was produced with multiple acid products freaks me out. Why eat something that is made up of harmful products and is thought to lead to health issues? There are so many healthier food options for us to choose from the certain natural sugars, so let's avoid eating these processed foods and stick to what's best. We all have one body, so don't put it to waste. Yeah, he's right. And, these are pretty much the same, telling you the same thing. It's, a little longer, but yeah, this basically, I can go through this one. It's long. Holy shit. Now this has corn sweeteners, and that's the food preparation, canned stuff. Yeah, these ones here all tell how, and then we get to diet soda. Here's the science that explains why drinking diet soda makes you gain weight. And then there's what it does to your brain. It seems to contradict the laws of physics. Regular soda are full of calories, 140 per can and up. Diet sodas have 0 calories, so it seems logical that replacing one with the other should help you lose weight, or at least stay the same weight. But nope. Several studies have proved conclusively that drinking diet soda is associated with weight gain. In one study, participants who started out normal weight and drank 3 diet sodas a day were twice as likely to be overweight or obese 8 years later as their non-diet soda drinking peers. Some skeptical scientists point out that the association is not the same as causation. Maybe not, but researchers have developed several theories that could very well explain why drinking diet soda causes weight gain. One or more of them are likely enough to be true that everyone who drinks diet soda should consider stopping now. It makes, oh yes, and this is another thing if you're diabetic, and I was told this, it makes bodies produce insulin. Yep. Insulin secreted by the pancreas is how the human body stores sugar. When the taste of artificial sweetener in soda, yogurt, or anything else hits your brain, it automatically sends a signal to your pancreas to begin producing insulin. Insulin is what tells our cells to either use sugar as food or store it as fat. Without it, our bodies can't process the sugar that lands in our bloodstream. When your pancreas produces insulin to deal with anticipated sugar, but then no sugar arrives, it confuses your body and disrupts your metabolic process. This may explain why several studies have shown a link between regularly drinking diet soda and metabolic syndrome, a collection of symptoms that increase larger waist circumference, higher blood pressure, and higher blood sugar. 2. It conditions our taste buds for sweetness. You probably know or have observed that the more regularly you taste something, sweetness, saltiness, etc., the more immune to it you become. This is why people who stop eating sugar or salt suddenly find many commercially available foods extremely salty, potato chips for instance, or extremely sweet candy bars. So, it's worth considering that artificial sweeteners are dramatically sweeter than sugar, and although it may not register that way on your tongue, diet soda is in fact much sweeter than regular soda. So, as that sweetness anticipated and accompanied by 0 calories confuses your brain as well as your metabolic processes and tends to leave you craving sugar more than before. 3. It makes you feel entitled to eat more. Yeah, this part is true. Counting calories is still the most common method people use to try to lose weight, and it's the basic principle behind both Weight Watchers and the popular weight loss app Lossit. If you're counting calories, there's a simple equation. Drinking a regular soda means you have to eat 140 calories less of something else that day or that meal. Drinking a diet soda means you've consumed 0 calories, so you get a free pass to eat more. But since drinking the diet soda has fooled your body into expecting sugar, it's changed the way you metabolize those other calories. You may store more of them as fat or use fewer of them as energy, which could leave you hungry and wanting to eat more food. If all of the above isn't enough to make you avoid the stuff, then consider the other studies also show drinking diet soda is associated with increased risk of stroke or Alzheimer's disease. Drinking regular soda seems to be bad for the brain as well. I don't know about you, but I'm sticking to water, unflavored seltzer, coffee, tea, and the occasional beer or real wine or red wine. Both regular and even diet can be sweet, bubby and yummy, but it isn't worth the risk. That's true. And here, do diet sodas hinder weight loss and contribute to belly fat? Yeah, they do. So yeah, these things are, yeah, and then we have this caffeine addiction signs. You're dependent on caffeine. This is 10 signs. You may be drink way too much caffeine. Coffee isn't addictive in the medical sense of the word, but it does cause a dependency. You should limit yourself to about 40 milligrams of caffeine a day, which is about 4 cups of coffee. Drinking too much caffeine can lead to brain fog, headaches, nausea, irritability, and more. While we may not view caffeine as a drug, I do, it technically is, since it is a stimulant that affects the central nervous system. In fact, it's the most commonly used drug in the world, and it's estimated that around 90% of adults in North America consume some form of caffeine daily. I don't. I gave all that up. Caffeine is generally considered safe when you limit it to no more than 400 milligrams per day. That's, like I said, 4 cups of coffee, which is about 4 cups of coffee. But if you find yourself consuming much more than that, or feeling unable to properly function without a large amount of caffeine, you may have a dependency on it. But to be clear, you are not addicted to it in the psychological use of the term. Here's what you need to know about caffeine dependency and how to cut back on caffeine. What is caffeine dependency? When people use the term caffeine addiction, that is incorrect. Technically, caffeine use can result in a physical dependency, but not an addiction, says, what is this, Chiron? The difference is as follows. Dependence, physical dependence on a drug means that you need more of it to gain the same effect that you can, but you can stop using it if you want to. An addiction is an uncontrolled substance use that results in negative consequences. In other words, you can't stop using the drug despite how it negatively impacts your life. Drug dependency can accompany addiction, but it is not addictive because it does not trigger neurological changes specific to drug addicts. In particular, caffeine does not change the orbital front cortex, part of the brain that helps you think rationally, like what researchers have seen in cocaine, heroin, or methamphetamine drug addicts. That said, caffeine does affect the brain, just in a different, less severe way. It works by blocking adenosine receptors in the brain that make you tired. As a result, you feel more awake and energized, says Vivek Shardian, MD, an internal medicine physician with a private practice. Yeah, private doctor. People become dependent on caffeine when they drink it on a daily basis and develop a tolerance, says Carrie Lamb, MD. I'm the co-founder. Okay. As the brain gets acclimated to the higher amount each day, those who stop drinking caffeine abruptly will start to have withdrawal symptoms and cravings, says, like a drug addict. Why caffeine is not addictive? Perhaps where the confusion between caffeine dependency and addiction comes in it in is because of how caffeine can lead to an increase in dopamine levels similar to addictive drugs like cocaine. By blocking adenosine receptors, caffeine allows other natural stimulants in our body, such as dopamine, to be more effective, says Shadian. However, the amount of dopamine released is not nearly large enough to cause the same type of surges in addictive drugs. Therefore, caffeine isn't active. The same reward circuits in the brain can't activate the same circuits in the brain linked to true addiction. That's true. Moreover, caffeine withdrawal symptoms can be uncomfortable, but they are not life-threatening the way withdrawal can be if you're addicted to alcohol, MDMA, Xanax, or just about any other addictive drug out there. Signs of caffeine dependency. Are you crazy? Yes. The main sign of caffeine dependency is that you are unable to perform daily activities without caffeine. If you're unable to function without your daily cup of coffee in the morning, there's a decent chance you are dependent on caffeine. Additionally, if you do not have your caffeine fix, Shedon says you may have withdrawal symptoms that start as early as 12 hours after your last caffeine dose, such as headaches, fatigue, irritability, brain fog, difficulty concentrating, and nausea. There may be behavioral aspects of caffeine dependency too. Lan says these include, 1. Wanting to cut down or control caffeine use but have difficulty doing so. 2. Consuming more caffeine over time than you'd like to. 3. Continuing caffeine use despite experiencing negative side effects of caffeine. 4. Caffeine interfering with your daily life. How to cut back on caffeine. If you decide it's time to cut back on caffeine use, there are various methods that you can use. 1. Keep a caffeine diary. When you're consuming large quantities of caffeine daily, it can be useful to keep a log of how much you are actually consuming, says Lamb. This helps you to be conscious of how much you consume and can allow you to understand triggers that make you spring for caffeine. In 2016, study found that excessive caffeine drinkers over 600 milligrams a day were able to significantly cut back on consumption by keeping a caffeine diary alongside counseling. Able to consider cut back on consumption. 2. Decrease caffeine gradually. To avoid harsh withdrawal symptoms, decrease your consumption gradually rather than stopping cold turkey. For example, Lamb says you can decrease by 1 cup a day or every couple of days, reduce your intake little by little. You still may experience withdrawals, but it can be less severe this way. 3. Replace high caffeine drinks with alternatives. Opting for beverages with a low caffeine content can help you decrease your intake while still providing a boost. For example, Lance says you can drink black tea or green tea while still having still has caffeine, but less than coffee or energy drinks. Get enough sleep. Caffeine isn't the best weapon to fight low energy, it's sleep, says Lamb. Therefore, we recommend getting quality sleep, avoid naps, and going to bed at the same time every night so you won't be tired in the first place, leading to to consume more caffeine. Stay hydrated. Drinking enough water can help dilute the strength of caffeine. It also helps the kidneys detoxify caffeine and it's metabolic quicker, says Lamb. Plus, drinking something else like water also gives your mouth and hands something to do to stay busy when you ditch your caffeine bug or other caffeinated drinks of choice, says Lamb. Insider's takeaway. Caffeine dependency can cause you to feel like you need caffeine to function, and you may experience withdrawal symptoms ranging from headaches to nausea if you don't get your daily caffeine fix. With persistence and dedication, however, cutting back on caffeine and breaking the cycle of dependence is possible. Yeah. And it's like this. Here's, this. Caffeine addiction and abuse. Yeah. You can basically become so addicted to it that, it hurts to quit. So, this is, like the brain. This article, you could read about it. But I just wanted to do this about the whole thing with corn and everything, and I was getting into the rest of it. I know this video went on for a bit. This is Gilgamesh. I will talk to you later. Bye.